alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
You have got to get up pretty early to go do something. We are the Alternative Digitalk. With our mobile studios, we are redefining TV presentation just as technology is setting the pace. We are blending our approach with fresh, perspectively designed breakfast show, The Mighty Drive, informative and entertainment show, exclusive and live interviews.
We President Museveni wadde juzi namulaba apima akawunga kilo 2 tasobola kalya nini bwaba alya kilo 5 oyannema okuliisa eggwanga ne bwe limundekera.
Njagala kwebaza the Alternative Digitalk etuwadde kano ka Mighty Drive era n'abatuwuliriza bonna abali ku mikutu njagala basaba mugendo mu maaso n'okuwuliriza.
All given to you just a click away on your phone, tablet, laptop and smart TVs as we are streaming live on our social media platforms, on the road and on the go. We are the Alternative Digitalk.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Six minutes past 7 a.m. A very good morning and a warm welcome to the Mighty Drive Show. It is the 11th day of August 2022. As we're speaking right now, Raila Amolo Odinga is in the lead with 51.7% of the entire votes casted. And of course, William Ruto is coming in second with 47.6%. This is courtesy of the BBC website, and it was last updated at 5 a.m. this particular morning, East African Standard Time. Utogere ngomwami Raila Amolo Odinga baba wa Kenya namukadde oyo myaka 77 akyakulembeddemu munne William Samoei Ruto. Twatandikidde ngomwami William Samoei Ruto yadde akulembedde kana akalulu abakyakabala wali mu ggwanga erya Kenya tujja kuba tubagamba biki ebigenda maaso as they unfold. Naye mbaliriza nnyo ku show ya mwenganzi bagiyita The Mighty Drive Show. Amanya nze Edgar Matthew Karuhanga ennaku z'omwezi 11 omwezi gwa Agosto omwaka 2022. Ebigenda maaso mu ggwanga ne wabweru w'eggwanga bingi nnyo. Tutandikiddeko mu ggwanga eryo erya Kenya we akalulu kagenda maaso twogera paka ssaawa zino. Bannakenya bakoze a lot of drama nja kuba mbaleeta ebifaananyi bingi ebibadde mu kalulu ako kennyini, naye buli atwegasseko olunaku lwaleero eno show ebeerayo buli lunaku lwa Monday paka ku lunaku olwokutaano kuva ku ssaawa 1 paka ku ssaawa 3 ez'okumakya. Tubeerawo wano nga tunyumyamu emboozi naawe nga tukunyumiza biki ebibadde gy'otaabadde ate nga tugezaako n'okuba nga tubeera ne discussions ez'enjawulo. Tuhostinga aba politicians, aba entrepreneurs, ba doctors. Eno show yeereeta buli omu as long as they have knowledge gye bagenda okuba nga basharinga naawe. Tubeerawo wano okuba nga tubakuleetera tunyumyamu mpaka ssaawa 3. Tetukola ku Mighty Drive yokka, naye shows ez'enjawulo ziri wano ku mukutu gwa Digitalk TV. Tulina show bagiyita The Voltage Show ebeerayo buli lunaku lwa Friday okuva ssaawa 1 ey'akawungeezi. Yeebeera mu lulimi Luganda. Ku Monday tubeera ne hotline yeebeera mu lulimi Lungereza kuva ku ssaawa 1 mpaka ssaawa 3. Monday wedde twalina omwami Major General Gregory Mugisha Muntu yaliwo wano nga tunyumyamu emboozi naye era oyagala interview eyo weeri ku platform zaffe ez'enjawulo ku Facebook kweri ne ku YouTube twagitaddeyo dda kweri. In case oyagala kubanga advertising ne Digitalk TV wano ku mukutu gwaffe feel free okubanga otusindikira direct message ku social media zaffe ez'enjawulo at the Alternative Uganda ku Facebook kwe tuli at Digitalk TV nawo kwe tuli okubanga tubaweereza. So in case olina kye weetaaga osobola okubanga otukubira. Tukola ebintu ebyenjawulo ng'ogyeko production, tukola content creation, tukola videography. Oyagala kubanga tukwatira omukolo gwo in case oyagala ku live streaming event yo, oyagala ku organizing event oba omukolo tusobola byonna okubanga tubikola wano ku Digitalk TV. So in case oyagala kubanga opanalinga naffe osobola okubirako ne programs director w'ekifo kino bamuyita Mr. Arnold Mukose Anthony. Enamba eri noti 7 noti 1 8 noti 2 twangala okubeebaza mwenna abarichinze out abagala okubanga mpatalinga naffe ekyamaanyi nnyo mwebale nnyo okubanga mugezaako okubanga muweereza naffe tweyaza nnyo kanzi ngende mu mawulire agatambula mu ggwanga ne wabweru w'eggwanga tutandikireko mu ggwanga erya Kenya akalulu kagenze okade kagenda mu maaso jjukira balonda olunaku lwali lwakubiri okwosa eggulo bagenda wansi ne bagezaako okubanga balonda abakulembeze baabwe ab'enjawulo. Drama abadde mu ggwanga erya Kenya era njatandika kusooka na bifaananyi eby'enjawulo ebisinza okubanga bikwata akayirigombe mu time eno y'akalulu. Manyi bannakenya akalulu tebakatwalanga ka bulijjo. So Nina kusaba producer wange wababina ndoza mulaba ebibimu ku bifaananyi ebadde mu kalulu kikenya yo yes punch kye baliko naye nga wabadde bagenda mu kulonda waliwo n'oyo yalondedde mu tawulo ye yagambye mukwano gwe yamukubidde ng'agenda kulonda nga ali mu kinaabiro yasazeewo ajja buzi wali alonde ebifaananyi nno bingi ebibadde mu ggwanga eryo erya Kenya era producer wange agenda kuba bateerayo kimu ku kimu mu birabe oyo muvubuka ye yajjidde mu tawulo okubanga alonda tewali kye bamugamba liri eggwanga erya Kenya akalulu kagenda mu maaso wakati wa William Samoei Ruto n'omwami Raila Amolo Odinga. Producer wange ajja kuba buleeta mpola mpola obufaananyi obwo mu bulabe obw'enjawulo buli a bit satirical funny omwana Kenya bo bamanyi n'omulala wuuyo ye yabadde naye mu tawulo aze kubanga alonda akalulu aka 2022 aka Kenya. Tugenda okubanga tulabira ani anaakatwala ewaka. Will it be William Samoei Ruto? Will it be Raila Amolo Odinga? Ebyo byonna mujja kubanga mubirabe ebo ba candidate abeesimbye kuba president wa Kenya bonna bagezaako okubanga bakulembera entebe y'obweggwanga eryo. Eggwanga eritulaze akalulu engeri gye bakategekamu. For the first time Ugandans knows we should borrow something from Kenya. At least wadde tebannaba kusoma results zonna. Process ebadde ereetera okulonda yo ebadde really so organized. Ekyo kyo tugenda kukibawa credit to the Kenyans okubanga bakoze system ya baji strengthening to that particular regard. Nechali waffe wuuyo the one of the greatest memes gwe tulina kati era abaana batera nnyo okubanga bamukolamu obuntu mpola mpola. Yabaddewo naye mu kalulu yagezezaako okubanga alonda president we in that particular regard. Byebigenda maaso mu ggwanga erya Kenya. We shall give you the information as it unfolds. Kyemanyi by Monday wenaakomerawo wano mujja kuba mumanyi ani president w'eggwanga lino erya Kenya era nja kuba mbaleetera buli kimu kye mwetaaga okumanya ku ggwanga eryo erya Kenya after they have gone for the election. Oyo nno y'omu ku balonzi wali mu ggwanga eryo erya Kenya bagezaako okubanga bawera nkolokooto. Buli omu agamba munne gwakulembera yagenda okubanga awangula akalulu ako ak'eggwanga erya Kenya. Tugendeko mawulire amalala. Omwami Fred Enanga ono nno ye mwogezi wa police oba yagudde mu bintu kye mbangamba bamwongeza ne bamuteeka ku ddaala lya senior commissioner of police. Omwami oyo Fred Enanga omwogezi wa poliisi y'eggwanga etwogerera nga kati bamwongeza eddala si ye yekka naye abapoliisi ab'enjawulo baatikiddwa ne babongera ku maddaala okubanga babeebaza okubanga baweereza eggwanga lyabwe. Jo olunaku lw'eggulo twalabye byabadde in that particular part of the country. Twalabye abapoliisi ab'enjawulo nga bonna bali decorated babongeza amaddaala madaala beebale nnyo kubanga baweereza eggwanga lyabwe era n'eggwanga lyabwe libajjukidde ne litegeeza nti in that regard bagenda kubanga babongeza oba babawadde ku madaala ag'enjawulo. Friday Nanga yasinze okuba nga trendinga kyemmanyi paka ne kati ku mukutu ogwo gwa Twitter akyali mu kutrendinga ebifaananyi byalabisaawo ng'ali ne mukyala we era ne bitugenda kuba nga tubibalaga obadde bamwongeza ennyota buli omu mu kifo ky'okucommentinga okukongratulatinga Mr. Friday Nanga buli omu yatandise commentinga ku mukyala we. Ebya Uganda nno ekyo tekikwewuunyisa obeera wano mu ggwanga erya Uganda naye nga ye omwami Fred Enanga yasobodde okuba nga bamutikkira okufuuka Senior Commissioner of Police. Congratulations Mr. Fred Enanga, webale kubanga oweereza eggwanga lyo likulabye era nalyo likwebaziza in that particular regard. So ndowooza bye bibadde mu ggwanga lino erya Uganda. Omwami Fred Enanga ne abapoliisi ab'enjawulo bayongeddwa oba baatikiddwa kati bagenda kubanga baweerezera with much more zeal okubanga they are serving the nation because eggwanga lyo lizeemu netandika okubanga liba recognizing for what they are doing in that particular regard. Twogereko ndowooza ku kigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga buli by election there is a trend that is happening mu by elections ez'enjawulo. Tuli mu kulaba nga ababaka ababa beesimbyewo ku political parties ez'enjawulo bagulwa oba kyetuba tugamba oba bava mu kalulu kyetuba tugamba kuba tetuli sure nti bagulwa naye bonna trend etandise okuba nga eringa eri mu kuluka. Someone is threading that trend nti Mugogonya omwami wa NUP yavudde mu kalulu ako ebukimbiri nawo tuwulira nti nno NRM eri mu kawuta buva omwami wa NUP yavudde mu kali akalulu kembagambye akasoose ak'Egogonya NUP yo yavaamu kati ate n'ebukimbiri mu by election yene egenda maaso era nayo twalabye nga NRM yokka yeri mu kweriisa oba bagiyita yeri mu kuwangula akalulu kano oba yeyokka eri mu takinga part. Abo bonna boolaba bakibiina kya NRM abalala ba failing okufuna flag ya NRM okubanga ba representing NRM kana akalulu era bazenga ba independent naye buli yadde azenga owa opposition abadde akivaamu buvi teri amanyi lwaki kati omwami yadde mu kalulu kana akabukimbiri yakivuddemu kati asupportinga NRM tetumanyi kiki kino kyekitegeeza naye nga it's something that is threading right now. Abantu bagezaako okuba nga bava mu bululu mpolampola. Egogonya twakiraba era president wa Yoweri Kaguta Museveni in that regard olunaku lw'eggulo yabadde Egogonya ng'anoonyeza omwami Derrick Orona akalulu ak'obwa MP bw'ekifo ekyo. President Museveni yagambye mulondo ono yajosobola okuba nga anoonya ebintu byammwe. So Derrick Orona President Museveni Joe yabadde mu kifo ekyo eky'Epalisa mu Gogonya ng'agezaako okuba nga anoonyeza omwami ono akalulu bye bigenda mu maaso ebukimbiri nga tulinde tulabe naye nga kyo kirabika nga NRM ekyeyongera amaanyi mu parliament buli by election kumpi NRM National Resistance Movement eyongedde okuba nga egiwangula. They are winning every by election that we are seeing. NRM is actually winning and of course they have the majority in parliament. Many members of parliament come from the National Resistance Movement or sometimes ogamba kino ekibiina kiina amakanda nno kimanyikiddwa oba kiganzi nnyo mu ggwanga erya Uganda wano. So NRM n'ebukimbiri abantu bonna abasatu abeesimbyewo bonna bava mu kibiina kino ekya National Resistance Movement. Mawulire amalala twabaddeko ne president we Somalia ndowooza leero olunaku lwagenda okuba nga ava mu ggwanga abadde wano for a 3-day working visit era yajja okulaba president Museveni omwami His Excellency Mohamud wali mu ggwanga president w'eggwanga lya Somalia yakomendinze president okubanga amagye agafudde agali professionalized ate gakola omulimu ogwago. Omwami oyo president wa Somalia yavudde n'agamba kirungi okubanga amagye bagawa projects ez'enjawulo ne gakeepinga active n'agamba bannamagye ababeera mu barracks babeera regressive oba oluusi bayinza okubanga bakyankalanya so obawa ebintu ebyokukola ekyo kiba kirungi nnyo. Omwami ono His Excellency Mohamud abadde atuwaringa industrial parks ez'enjawulo okutandika ku y'Ennakawa paka ku y'Ennakasongola zonna abadde azitambulamu mpolampola ng'agezaako okubanga ajja wano mu Uganda okulaba ebintu engeri gye bikolebwamu ate okwogeramu n'omukulembeze w'eggwanga lino okufindinga a way how Somalia and Uganda can actually partner in that particular regard. So kigenda maaso mu ggwanga liri erya Somalia. President waabwe abadde ali muno on a 3-day working visit wetwogerera ng'alabika agenda kubanga ava mu ggwanga olunaku luno olwaleero. Yoyo president wa Somalia mu ggwanga mwali wetwogerera. Eddakiika zino ziri 18 ze zaakayita ku ssaawa emu ey'okumakya. Oli ku program bagita The Mighty Drive. Amannya nze Edgar Matthew Karuhanga okubanga nkuweereza biki ebigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga. Olunaku olwaleero tuno tulina abakyala babiri bagenda kubanga bajja wano n'omwami Rogers Tulyaha banyumyemu emboozi paka ssaawa 3 wali tulabe engeri gye tusobola okubanga tukulaakulanyamu eggwanga lyaffe. Yoyo President Mohamud ali mu ggwanga erya Uganda olunaku olwaleero. Tuveeko kaawo tuddukeko mu parliament. Omubaka wa Bukoto South omusajja gwe bayita Dr. Twaha Kagabo omwami oyo yakomezaawo miliyoni 4 n'azitwala wali mu office of the leader of opposition Mathias Mpuuga. Weyavuddeyo omwami ono wa kibiina kino ekya National Unity Platform era nga ye yakomezaawo ssente yakomezaawo miliyoni 4 mu cash n'azitwalira leader of opposition yeyaziganye n'agamba nze sinze gwolina kubanga oddiza ssente zino, ssente ezo ziddize yenna eyali yazikuwa. Mu ngeri eyo twalabye speaker wa parliament Anita Among ng'avaayo ng'agamba nti omwami ono alina okunoonyerezebwako ssente zino yazijjabwa, naye ate waliwo ebyali bigambibwa in that time nti omuntu yali agaba ssente ezo yali Speaker of Parliament omukyalo Anita Among. Sibanyi oba ali mu kwewaayiriza oba just biri baali babimuteekako buteesi nga babimujwetekako, naye nga geega amawulire agavaayo nga balaga nti omukyalo ono ye yali agaba ssente ezo. Tetubikakasa era naffe tuteekawo disclaimer, we are not sure if she was the one. Naye yagambye omwami ono Dr. Twaha Kagabo alina okubanga anoonyerezebwako. Ye leader of opposition ssente zino yaziganye n'agamba ssente ezo ino zizza gye wazijje. Kati awo Dr. Kagabo ali awo ali mu bbanga bwe batera okubanga bagamba. Waliwo n'ekifaananyi producer kyalina okubalaga omwami oyo ng'akutte ssente ezo ng'ali mu office ya leader of opposition zonna ng'azikutte mu cash. Ndoza tunaa tufunye obudde tujja kubanga tukibalaga mu kirabe. Yoyo omwami Dr. Twaha Kagabo ono nno member of parliament w'ekitundu kiri ekya Bukoto South wetwogerera. Yoyo omwami Dr. Twaha Kagabo kyekyo ekifaananyi kyennyini nga ssente agezaako okuziwa leader of opposition omwami Mathias Mpuuga yaziganye n'agamba ssente ziddizibwe yonna gye zaali zivudde. Zizo dakiika 2 ze zaakayita ku ssaawa emu ey'okumakya. Ye minisita omujja owa Justice and Constitutional Affairs mu ggwanga lino ate nga ye at the same time Democratic Party President Norbert Mao yamiitinze maama wa Sseggirinya olunaku lw'eggulo. Nabawa amawulire wano ku lunaku olwokubiri nti maama wa Sseggirinya yagenda wali ku office ya ku Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs ng'asaba okuba ng'amiitinga omwami Norbert Mao. Mu ngeri eyo twalabye nga Norbert Mao olunaku lw'eggulo yamiitinze maama wa Sseggirinya ne mukyala we ne boogeramu kyekyo ekifaananyi nga bagezaako okuba nga finding solutions. Ye Norbert Mao yagambye agenda kukola buli kyasobola okubanga aleeta justice obwenkanya bulabike in that regard we yagambye mama wa Sseggirinya, because at the end of the day wadde ayinza okubanga mama wa Sseggirinya alowooza omutabani we ali free oba ali innocent, naye ekyo bannamateeka abakenkufu be balina okubanga bakikakasa. Abasajja bwe baakwatibwa omwaka oguwedde ndowooza kati gukunukkiriza okuba okwera omwaka nga bali mu mbuzi ekogga, baabateekako emisango egy'enjawulo omuli okutta oba murder, okugezaako okutta attempted murder, obutujju terrorism and abating terrorism oba okusasula oba okuteeka ssente mu butujju, nga bagamba bano be baali mabega wa ekitta bantu ekyali e Masaka ekyatwala abantu abakunukkiriza mu bantu 27 abattibwa nga butemebwa mu Greater Masaka region. Gavumenti okuva olwo ebadde basimba mu mbuga ez'enjawulo naye nga tewali bujulizi bw'amaanyi bwaleetedda. There is no substantive evidence that has been availed to court to pin these two particular legislators. Paka sawa zino omubaka w'e Kawempe South omwami Mohamed Sseggirinya n'omubaka w'e Makindye West wano wenyiwe tuli Alan Sewanyana bakyali emabega w'emitayimbwa era nga balinda okubanga bawozesebwa. Recently file yaabwe yaweerezebwa mu High Court okubanga bagezaako okubanga baba prosecuting in that regard. Ye mama wa Sseggirinya omwami Norbert Mao yamukakasizza nti no ajja kukola buli kyasobola okulaba nga justice prevailing in that particular regard. Mawulire amalala, Uganda eyongedde okubanga yeeswaza nga bulijjo bwekola ba netball oba ba she cranes abazanya netball we bakomyewo mu ggwanga wali ku airport teri government official yabaddewo okubanga aba welcominga ate nga teri yadde ekyamaanyi kyakoleddwa. Bano abakyala be ba representing Uganda mu muzannyo gwa netball in what we call the Commonwealth Games ejali wali mu ggwanga erya Birmingham we bakolya Uganda we bamakingira ddala Uganda to be proud bazanye emizannyo egy'enjawulo wadde twakubwa Abungereza naye twasobola okuba nga tukuba South Africa which is the best netball team in Africa twagikuba twakuba ne Northern Ireland mu muzannyo ogwo gwa netball ate tubadde basaale nnyo ne mu Liverpool twaliyo mu World Cup ya netball naye we bakomyewo abakyala bano okuva mu Commonwealth Games babadde wali ku kisaawe naye teriibwadde wa gavumenti n'omu yazze kubanga abacheckingako obanga abareceiving omuntu yabareceiving yabadde security guard wa I think National Sports Council yes ye yazze n'abawa buli omu $5,000 buli omu n'akivaamu. Abakyala abagenze ne barepresenting eggwanga baweereddwa mu njogera yaffe ekizikezike buli omu ng'ate akibawa sina president wa National Council for Sports oba minister wa sports oba fufa president or anybody who is in the sports fraternity yabadde mukuumi wa kitongole kino ekya National Council for Sports. Ekintu ekiswaza eggwanga lyaffe abaana bano aba representing eggwanga bulungi sigwe gusoose naye nga ate sigwe gusoose nga government ekola ebintu ebyo bonna badde wali just wali stranded batuuse teri muntu aba welcoming teri babalaga mbu balina n'ekyamaanyi kyebakoze in that regard babawadde $5,500 buli omu n'avaawo n'ekizike kye ekintu ekiswaza ennyo era gavumenti bonna abali responsible bino ebintu bye biswaza eggwanga lyaffe abaana tebasobola kubanga baweereza ggwanga ne mutaba what they call even the cheapest of decencies okubakima ku kisaawe kya ku airport oba oku I don't know for any government yonna okubanga eraga nti nno bakoze omulimu ogw'amaanyi obanga agamba bano tebalina kintu kyonna kye bakoze. Ndowooza katumalirize ebigenda maaso mu byemizannyo. Murushid Juko yegasse ku Vipers era omwami ono yaza musajja nakuba center back yali center back wa Uganda Cranes okujjako recently Murushid Juko eyeggwanga yagivaako n'alekerawo okubanga asamba ya retiringa ku myaka emito ddala wetwogera nga yegasse ku club esinga obw'amaanyi kati wetwogerera mu ggwanga lino erya Uganda omwami Murushid Juko yoyo omulangira Murushid Juko yegasse ku tiimu eno ya Vipers agenda kubanga abazanyira wali Central Defence ate this is a very good addition avudde mu club eri eya Express FC sisobola na bagamba by the way sente mmeka kubanga ebya Uganda mubimanyi bakweka nnyo sente tetumanyi sente ze baguze mu Rushid Juko naye kye tumanyi nga eggwanga etimu eno eya Vipers ya Mine Invaders wali ku St Mary's ekitende wagenda okubanga akuba n'abavubuka abo nno Vipers season eno yekoze mbwekozi mulimu egasse ku basajja bebadde ina already ina abasajja balungi ba Bobos bya Rohanga bonna bali awo ba Manzuki oyo nno yabadde top scorer wabwe ate begattiddwako ne Abdul Mala naye yegattako club eno ya Vipers yo eyongedde okubanga ereeta abantu abamanyi balina ba Paul Muchurez. This is a club that is really doing miracles and performing right here in the Pearl of Africa. Bali already ne ku continent bagenda okubanga bazanya mu CAF Champions League katulinde tulabe waba nasobola okuva mu bibinja maybe banasobola maybe tebajja kusobola ye Murushid Juko yadde unveiled wali as the new centre back for the Vipers right there in St Mary's kitenda abamanyi Murushid Juko nga ya sajja azanya Central Defence nnyo ya lumu yanyiga Mohamed Salah n'abula ne wasobola okubanga ayisa omupiira twali tuzanya ggwanga erya Egypt. So Murushid Juko congratulations omulangira we bale kubanga owegasse ku tiimu esinga obw'amaanyi mu ggwanga lino sigenda na kukiruma mu Vipers is the most organized best team in Uganda today era bakibalaze nga bawangula n'ekikopo ekyawedde bakiwangudde nga balina mileage ya points ya 18 like baba kubye points 18. That is someone who does not just win by mistake, that is someone who wins intentionally. Tetuleme kwetooloola kuwaana bintu nga tekirina ngeri gyetusobola kubanga tubiggusa. Ndoza ye Wininwaji yagobebwa ali ku Ministry of Internal Affairs agogo mwagawulira nagwogerako ku wano ate Ministry of Internal Affairs yavuddeyo n'ekakasa nti kati tebagenda kukkiriza abaserebu oba beeyita baserebu okubanga bajja nga tebambadde bulungi. Ekyo kyava ku omukyalo ono Winnie Nakanwaji Wininwaji yagenda nga ayambadde obupale bwali bumpi nnyo ng'ayambadde n'essaati zino ezirimu ebituli abavubuka batera kuziyita zi damage yali ayambadde ne bamugoba ku Ministry of Internal Affairs ne bamugamba ddayo yambale bulungi wona ayambala bulungi tujja kuba nga tukukkiriza mu kifo kino. Yali omwogezi wa Ministry of Internal Affairs yavuddeyo n'akakasa eggwanga nti omuntu yenna addamu okujja ng'ayambadde bubi tagenda kuba ng'afuna access eri Ministry of Internal Affairs oba passport oba kyonna ky'oyagala okuba ng'okolayo tojja kuba ng'okkirizibwa because ogenda kuba oyambadde indecently oba inappropriately. Yambala ng'omanyi ogenda kwambala ki, ogenda mu bantu osobola okuwa abantu ekitiibwa. Yo poliisi ya Uganda yavuddeyo n'ekakasa bannayuganda ab'enjawulo nti ennaku zino okutunda kwa number plates kuli waggulu. Number plate bantu bangi abali mu kuzitunda we batyo bazijja ku mmotoka ezifunye accident ne bazitundireyo mu magalaji buli number plate ndoze eri $40 okwambuka. Omwami Fred Enanga bwe yakakasiza eggwanga n'agamba naye kino tukirekera awo ate bwe tunakikola wonaakwatibwa ng'okikola of course bagenda kusibira emabega w'emitayimbwa ky'otaaliyagadde nange kyessaaliyagadde kubanga kikutuukako. Amannya nze Edgar Matthew Karuhanga tugenda kuba nga tuwummulamu katono we tukomawo omwami Rogers tuli ahabe waali wano tugenda kuba nga tunyumyamu emboozi paka ssaawa 3 ziri ez'okumakya. Mwebale kubanga mwekuumidde ku Digitalk TV. Let's go for a short commercial break.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
You have got to get up pretty early to go do something. We are the Alternative Digitalk. With our mobile studios, we are redefining TV presentation just as technology is setting the pace. We are blending our approach with fresh, perspectively designed breakfast show, The Mighty Drive, informative and entertainment show, exclusive and live interviews.
We President Museveni wadde juzi namulaba apima akawunga kilo 2 tasobola kalya nini bwaba alya kilo 5 oyannema okuliisa eggwanga ne bwe limundekera.
Njagala kwebaza the Alternative Digitalk etuwadde kano ka Mighty Drive era n'abatuwuliriza bonna abali ku mikutu njagala basaba mugendo maaso n'okuwuliriza.
All given to you just a click away on your phone, tablet, laptop, and smart TVs. As we are streaming live on our social media platforms, on the road and on the go. We are the Alternative Digitalk. How you beautiful Ugandans? It's your girl Denise-Nataional. Welcome to the fancy floor. Who doesn't see my hair, guys? I am super glamorous. Remember, this is the only show where we're going to be talking about fashion.
Please, where are you think? Teaching.
What has been confusing you about fashion? Sorry, you said I should not smile. For all the information about fashion, maintenance of body shape.
I can wear bling bling when I'm going out. So you can wear bling bling going out or any occasion.
We shall be doing all this in the fancy floor. Remember, it airs every Thursday right from 8:30 to 9 with your girl Denise-Nataional. It is the fancy floor.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
A very, very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to today's edition of the Mighty Drive. My name is Roger Storiawe, and I have the privilege today to serve you as the moderator of today's discussion. Now, first of all, I want to thank you, Edgar, for the updates. I think it is very important that people get the information in real time, and so it makes all of us make informed decisions, and those decisions that can make our societies and our communities better places to live. So thank you so much. It is the reason why we are here as a Mighty Drive and the Digitalk as a whole, to be able to give you the information and accept that we are trying to revolutionize in one way or another, to make sure that the information you get is, in real time, but it's also digital. It's convenient that whenever you and wherever you are, you can get it, and whenever, at any moment that you want. So it is kind of different from the mainstream, because mainstream you have to be glued to a TV. There's a particular way that you have to be there, and then you must secure a TV first of all. But for us, even if just a small phone is enough for you to be able to be updated, so that is what we do, and we are here to make sure that as we are moving into the digital generation, we are on time, and the people are having factual information. That is the most important. Social media is a place that is known commonly for having misinformation, and for people saying whatever they want. Sensationalism nowadays came, and people do and say whatever they feel at any one point, and sometimes the information they give is not exactly factual. So the reason we are here as Alternative Digitalk is to make sure that social media is also another place that you can go and get the factual information and get it in time as and when it happens. Now today is a day that is special to a lot of us, especially young people now, especially since the Alternative Digitalk is also youth-led. It is also a special day for all of us at Digitalk, but also for the world as a whole. Tomorrow, we will be celebrating the International Youth Day of the Year of the Lord 2022. Now, the theme for this year is intergenerational solidarity, creating a world for all ages. Now, International Youth Day is very important in the sense that it is our day. We celebrate the young people and probably the achievements they have had. We have seen the world has come over time, on sometimes on the whims of young people. We have seen she's called Joan of the Arc, something like that, one who led France to the victory back in the day, a few centuries ago. We have seen young people lead movements. We have seen Greta Thunberg, the Swedish climate activist. She led the whole world almost on fire, some friend of mine used to say. And we came to understand the whole idea behind the climate action. And the climate change is a problem. You see, most of the times we like to look the other way and say, that's not an issue, really, we have not felt it, especially in Africa particularly. Most of the times we want to feel that is a distant issue. It's an issue that is not yet in our circles, but it is an issue that is common, that is cross-cutting. Much as we are not a part of the causes of the problem that causes climate change, we are one of the biggest consumers of the effects of climate change. I want to put it that way. So at the end of the day, you realize that the problem is general. And so when young people are at the forefront of making sure that the world is better, we have days like these to celebrate their brilliance, to celebrate their achievement, to celebrate their contribution, to celebrate their energy as a whole in making the world a better place. Now, when you look at statistics, almost 50%, if not already 50%, of the age population in the world is below 30, the whole world. Now you realize that is a big percentage, half of the world. Now we are projected to be 8 billion people in November of this year. That means, therefore, that as the population grows, the margin for young people is expanding further, because then and it means also that the old generation is also weighing out. So at the end of the day, making the world a better place and all inclusive for young people particularly to thrive economically, to thrive, to contribute, especially in political participation, especially in governance spaces, is very important and very paramount. And so we celebrate them to recognize their efforts in the development agenda generally across the world, and to celebrate their achievement, their contribution in that space. Now today I'm going to be having two young ladies. One is Ayebare Denise, another is Esther Awori, who are both young people and who both have the interests of young people at heart. They are advocates of youth empowerment generally put. Now they're also particularly climate activists. So we'll be looking at climate activism as one. We want to look at the youth contribution in that area. We want to look at whether the young people can actually cause change in most of these spheres of development agendas across the world. We want to look at if the world is really responding to the urgency of climate, especially given the fact that it affects young people even the more. And now the other issues we will probably be looking out for is in line with the theme of this year, which is intergenerational solidarity. We have a problem of ageism. Ageism is a problem. Now, ageism literally means the discrimination of people according to their ages. Now, most times than not, you will realize that young people have been put aside because apparently they do not have experience, or they somehow, somewhere, a young person needs some more skills, needs some this and that. It does not have this or does not have that. When they speak, the people like to call it emotion outbursts. At one time we were having some a climate conference actually, and a commissioner of the Ministry of Water and Environment, when I spoke about the Bugoma forest issue, and then the gentleman was like, the young people, what they do is emotion outbursts, and that is all. So at the end of the day, we want to look at, shouldn't we be emotional when the issues that are close to our hearts, those that are going to affect us, those that are going to affect the people that are coming after us, are not prioritized. So at the end of the day, we want to look at that. How do we make inclusion work? How do we make sure that young people are at the center of policies and development agendas? We have had this country have development programs like the Youth Livelihood Fund. We had the Youth Venture Capital Fund. We had the Emyoga. We had even the parish development model that is ongoing right now. That has happened time and again. So we want to look at if that, how that is inclusive in the structures of those development programs. Is it really entrenched? Are the grassroots really feeding young people? Are young people really at the center of that, especially now in a country like Uganda? Now, Uganda has almost 70% of its population young people. Now, a country that has its most constituency being young people, we want to look at, has the country really prioritized the majority now? Because if we are going by democracy, we are the majority. So what does it mean when the development programs are prioritizing the ages that are the minors, when prioritize the minority as opposed to majority? So we want to also look at our development programs, and so the whole idea really of leaving no one behind. Now the theme being that it's intergenerational solidarity, it means that at the end of the day, no one should be left behind. Now when you look at the SDGs, the United Nations SDGs, most of them are really looking, especially SDG 10, it's reduced inequalities. Now inequalities are also going to be in equal opportunities for all. It means that we have to advocate for spaces that are all inclusive, that young people and old people alike are all at the center of that, and they are part of the implementation. It is also one thing to prioritize young people and not having young people in the processes that are affecting the implementation of those inclusion programs. So we also want to look at that and make sure that the young people are at the center of that. So that and much more is what we are going to be looking at. And these young people, I'm going to be introducing them in a very short time. So we're going to be looking at that. We want to also look at mindset change. That is one of the problems that has hit us hard. We have seen young people time and again, staying behind. It is one thing to want youth inclusion, to want young people included in most of these spaces, but it's also another thing for them to actually be ready. So these things are what we are going to be looking at. How do we also change the mindset of young people to make sure that they are ready for these changes, that when they are put in these spaces, they are able to deliver really as we want. So those are the things we are going to be looking at. The other things we are going to be looking at is the International Youth Day really and what it means for all of us. Is it even worth celebrating because it has happened over time? Is it really a thing that is worth celebrating? We at a time that feels like our day is our day and we are celebrating it because we have caused an achievement, because we have made the society move a step ahead, because these issues have happened. So we want to look at all this and this a lot more on how to make it work for young people. Those are the things we are going to be looking at. I also want to look at the victimization. Sometimes we want to feel like the victims, but sometimes we also feel like, I personally feel like sometimes we have just sat behind and expected the world to work in our favor. Sometimes when you want something, you have to go over and above to make sure that you actually make it happen for yourself, to make sure that you are part of the issue, that you are contributing as much to be given the platform in the first place. That when you sit back time and again, especially given our education system, you will see young people, you will leave university, but you don't really have a skill exactly. So at the end of the day, if I am the owner probably of a company, there are high chances that I'm going to consider someone who has had experience in one way or another. So if you do not get a few skills, how am I supposed to do that? But also, now to also talk about the role of government in making sure that it skills young people, that when you get out, it is not an issue of how old you are or how long you have been in the workforce. It is the fact that you have a skill, that is all that matters at the end of the day, not for how long I have worked. So at the end of the day, we want to look at the importance of that and a lot of issues around that. So we want to also call upon the government and make sure that they prioritize the issues of young people and upgrade, I should say, in the education system. Because when you look around the world, there are countries in the world where they literally do skilling. A young person from a very young age will wake up, go to school, have a passion in a particular field. If, for example, they like engineering and robots, you'll find their parents are going to take them in an institution that is skillfully in that position, that it does particularly that. So it makes it easier for someone to come to the workforce and be able to contribute that way because they have been skilled, they have been in that area for quite some time. And so it is important in that way because when the government is prioritizing skills, the young people, the problem of unemployment will probably not be here because then we know that we have a field of engineering from a young age. There are people who are skilled, so it won't become an issue of how long have you worked, which companies have you worked for, this and that. So we want to make sure that that is also happening. And so we will look into that. We will try to break down a few of the sustainable development goals. We have now education, obviously we have that, which is 4, which is a sustainable development goal 4, which is quality education, make it work for the whole world. And also make sure that the government also prioritizes issues of education. You'll see there are regions, even in Uganda, where children don't actually go to school, or those who go, and then when they reach around P7, their parents, because they probably did not go to school, they will feel like you have studied quite enough. And so I think that is enough for this fight. We have had a saying of parents who did not go to school will tell you, those are things that have happened. So we want to also look at that, break the stereotypes of what has happened before is a generation that has happened. But now we are in a world that really entirely relies on education, relies on technology. Now we are doing things digitally. So if someone does not really have these skills, how do you expect them to compete in the world? So making the world more inclusive is also looking at the barriers, breaking down the barriers that keeps them out of the workforce. And so we will be looking at issues such as those. We'll look at issues of gender equality here and there. Obviously, we've seen young ladies here and there being kept out of the workforce. Sometimes they'll just say you are meant for marriage. When you wake up, you grow up, one thing you are meant for is marriage. And so we want to look at that and know that the young people should also be given a priority and an opportunity to be able to drive their passions and dreams and be contributory. Because the world, we have seen young people who are ladies especially, create change and cause change in society. So we want to look at that and see how do we make it all inclusive for gender. Because time and again we will see families when it's an education issue and the family probably doesn't have finances that much, they will say, when you reach a particular age, they will say, the lady can sit now, the gentleman should be going to school. So that is also marginalization in one way or another. So we want to also look at how do we break down that and make the society really all inclusive as far as gender is concerned. So that is a number of issues, and I have one of my panelists here already, so I'm going to have to introduce her and to have her tell us, well, a bit first of all. You're welcome, first of all.
Thank you.
And I want you to just tell us who you are, your name, or your viewers will want to know who you are. Your name, what you do, what are you passionate about, and we'll begin at that. Good morning. First, I welcome you, sir. Please.
Good morning everyone. I'm Esther Awori, a student at Uganda Christian University pursuing law. I'm very passionate about human rights from every age, right from when a child is not yet born up to when somebody dies. That is the age of, we could say in Uganda, 70 and 80. And I'm also passionate about climate change because ideally we have one world, we have no planet B, and this is where we can survive. Yes.
You're welcome very much this edition of the Mighty Drive. This is Alternative Digitalk, yes. And we are digital. As you see, the world has moved. So we do things, we have things revolutionized here and there. So our things really happen online and on the internet. So I welcome you today. We want to literally celebrate the International Youth Day, which is due tomorrow, but we will just be early birds for this time.
Okay.
So I want to, yeah. So I want to understand what does a Youth Day mean to you as a young person? When they say it's International Youth Day, what does it really mean for you as an individual?
Personally, I think that the youth are the future tomorrow. So when we engage the youth in each and every activity, be it economical, be it social, be it political, at the end of the day, we are the future leaders. Yes. If we are not engaged in these things, if we do not know, then what stands for us ahead? Yes. So International Youth Day is something actually to treasure, because at the end of the day, it is us going to fill those positions later in 2030, 2060. Yes. So it's very important and key for us to value the youth, to educate them, to engage them in everything, because at the end of the day, SDGs also supposed to be maintained. It goes back to those goals, yes, because education, employment, entrepreneurship, yes, all these should be impacted in the youth right from the grassroots as they go. So the earlier they embrace the fact that they are the youth, that they should participate in these things, the better for the world. Yes.
So at the end, generally across the world, I'll speak the perspective of Uganda. You're Kenyan, are you not?
I am Ugandan.
Okay. You told me you've done some activism in Kenya.
Yes, I have done some activism in Kenya.
I thought you might have some roots in Kenya or something. But to understand this International Youth Day, it is, let's just say it means something to us. But is it really worth celebrating given the trends of young people and how they contribute to the development agendas of this world, on whether the world has even really paid attention to the power of young people? Is it really worth celebrating? Is it a day that happens and we celebrate and it makes any difference or makes any change, or it's just another day? It's like Christmas. We wake up, on 25th of December every year, we have a Christmas day, and so we go to church, we eat very nice food, we put on nice clothes, and that is it. We wait for another one.
I think that countries have really tried to do their very best. You could look at United Nations. They had a meeting on a conference on 3rd and 2nd of June 2014, and they were discussing about International Youth Day post 2015. That is engaging the youth in each and every activity. That is to member states. And I assume Uganda is one of them, right?
Yes.
So Uganda is trying as much as it can to actually include the youth. You take an example of last week, the youth parliament speaker
Yes.
was chosen. That is Honorable Maria Spear from UCU. Yes, I think the country is actually trying as hard as it can to actually recruit the youth into the system, because one, these are the people who are going to get those positions after, and then two, again, these are the same people that are going to talk to fellow youth. Looking at our GDPs and how Uganda is, most of the people are young people,
Yes.
Now, if you only have elders, the young people are going to shy away. Now, if you put the young people there, they will have confidence and say that I can also do it. We can make this country better. If they listen to a young person say something, they believe it much more than an older, because they will say, okay, that person has been there, they have seen the days, they have seen the sun before us, yes. So but if they see somebody that is of their age doing something and impacting and actually making a change, creating jobs, talking to people and actually impacting into their lives, that is a one. That's a 1+4 for us. Yes. But I think that celebrating this day is actually very important, because at the end of the day, it goes back to what you value as a youth, right? And also, it makes people know that youth are actually special people in the world, yes? And because most of the time we have the Labor Day for the laborers, which the young people or the youth could say they're not even supposed to be taxed if they are working, yes? So they don't categorize us there. So if we have a national youth day, then the youth are going to be aware that, you know what, we're also actually important people in this world, in this society. We can actually say something and it can be heard. We can knock doors to offices and impact in lives and make a difference.
You're speaking of the youth parliament, which happened a few days ago.
Yes.
I want to understand, does it really make any much of change? Do policymakers, does the government particularly, feel like a youth parliament, young people go there and actually speak something that should be paid attention to? Because sometimes, time and again, we have had an issue of young people will say this and that, others will say, you just noise makers, that has happened. And they are left to being used most of the times. Now, even if it comes to political participation time and again, and it comes to campaign periods, you realize young people are only there they will give you this and that, at least the majority of young people, especially those in the countryside, you will find that they are being used. So at the end of the day, do young people really see something, and the government and people in power feel like that is an issue to be paid attention to?
Ideally, I believe that young people do say things that the elders should listen to, but some of
this should.
Yes,
okay, that's
should.
important.
They should, because when somebody gives you an opinion, they have a reason as to why they have said it. Yes. So at the end of the day, if I was looking at this year's theme of the youth parliament, when they talked about youth inclusivity in climate change and negotiations and all that stuff. Now, I believe that if a speaker probably wrote a motion about something in regards to climate change, saying universities should plant trees, or this is the number of the youth we are setting out to the community to do this, yes, this is our budget, this is the amount of money we need, yes, don't you think there would be much more, could we say, positive feedback from the various youth than if probably the Speaker of Parliament said universities should do this, universities should do that, right? So I believe that the fact that the Youth Parliament exists, yes, I believe that it's also not about just the Parliament saying, or the youth speaker saying that this, it still goes back to us as individuals, as youth ourselves, yeah? Do we have love for the environment? Do we have love for each other, yes? Because it's one thing for me to take a goat to drink water, and it's another for you to drink the water. Yes. So how about we put salt in the hay so that it's forced to drink the water? So at the end of the day, it still goes back to how we perceive our environment. So when the youth speaker probably said that, okay, our parliament, we have this budget, we want to plant trees in the various universities because we have noticed there is global warming. You look at the various hindrances, factories, even cryptocurrency being among those causing climate hindrances. So, but at the end of the day, when the youth speaker says that, and then the youth themselves, yes, have power and fault in what their speaker is saying, even without the money, yes, these people could go get seeds and plant at the various universities. Yeah, that is ideally.
You speak like a climate activist. Are you one?
I am.
And now, it is important, especially, and it's very timely. Now, there's a coincidence in the way things are happening. We are, the climate change is one issue that is affecting the world generally right now. But since the outbreak of COVID, we have seen it has gotten a backbench. You know that it has become an issue like it used to be, an issue that does not really make it the news that much. People feel like, what is climate change anyway? The rain is raining here, and we have seasons where they have shifted, but that is how the world is. Things change time and again, so that is it. So people don't really feel like it's so much of an issue. Now, it wasn't before, until the young people, especially the youth movement, obviously now, led by Greta Thunberg. I think she's the one who sparked the whole movement of climate activism in this century. And we got some attention to some level. But now with the outbreak of COVID, it seems to have become a distant issue again. So how do you think we can put it back to being the priority that it was? Seeing as if you see the heat waves that have happened, especially
Yes,
across
in
Europe.
Bugiso.
Across Europe and even in Africa generally.
Even in Africa.
And now you have seen, yes, what has happened in eastern Uganda, in the that area.
Mbale region.
Yes, we have had East Africa, in the Horn of Africa, we have Ethiopia, Kenya, and Somalia being affected by droughts 3. I think it was 2011, 2012, 2016, 2017, and then 2021, and this one. So those have happened, and people really are facing food insecurity. And this issue has happened really. But now climate change as the cause of that seems to have taken a backseat. What do we need to spark this whole conversation again so that it catches the attention that it once had?
First and foremost, I would say COVID-19 took us ablaze.
Yes.
We didn't see that coming. No one did. Yeah. No one thought that, would not go to church on Sunday, would stop studying. Yes. No one saw that. Everyone thought, okay, the world has to continue. And also, it's something that took us by surprise. Yes. And so our mind immediately went to it. And just because it took us by surprise, actually wouldn't be a fault. But by the fact that it was taking lives, yes, it was hindering movements of people. Yes, it was doing all these things. Now, by the time it was doing that, all governments switched all their programs to think about safety of people.
Yes, true.
Yes, how do we save people? How do we make sure that the economy stands on its feet? Now, I like the policy that now Uganda has come up with, where they took you can look at the example still last week, why the youth parliament was put in place, the motion, the theme of the event, which brought us back to climate. Yes, so we have tried to resolve the issue of COVID. We have tried to mitigate it even as a country, Uganda, and so now we are thinking about things outside COVID. Yes, because we're supposed to first we can't handle everything at once. Yes, we can't, and we're just a developing country. Yeah. We can't do that. So, but the fact that we have secured people now, it is now time to what? To secure our environment. And I would give an applause to our parliament for making that a theme this year.
Thank you so much. Now, our other guest, Denise Belinda, is here today. She has entered appearance, quite just delayed. I don't like to say late. She's been delayed here and there. But we are going to go in for a short commercial break. The sentence I'm giving her for being delayed is that she's going to introduce herself in the second hour. So we're going in for a short commercial break. We're going to be talking about Youth Day generally as a whole and the contribution of young people across the world. Looking at Uganda particularly, these two young ladies are commendable for what they are doing. I am particularly a person who's proud of the work they are doing. And so we want to look at the contributions of them and the people like them across the world. And how do we appreciate them, and if the world is actually appreciating them. So let's go in for a short commercial break. We'll be right back in the second hour. You'll also be able to call in or send a comment. We'll be reading it about towards the end of the show, and then these young ladies are going to be answering that. Let's go for a short commercial break.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
How you beautiful Ugandans, it's your girl Denise-Nataional. Welcome to the fancy floor. Who doesn't see my hair, guys? I am super glamorous. Remember, this is the only show where we're going to be talking about fashion.
Please, where are you think? Teaching.
What has been confusing you about fashion? Sorry, you said I should not smile. For all the information about fashion, maintenance of body shape,
I can wear bling bling when I'm going out. So you can wear bling bling going out or any occasion.
we shall be doing all this in the fancy floor. Remember, it airs every Thursday right from 8:30 to 9 with your girl Denise-Nataional. It is the fancy floor.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
You're welcome back from that short commercial break. My name again is Ayebare, and you're watching the Digitalk TV live on our social media handles, Facebook, Digitalk TV, and the Alternative Uganda social media handles. And later the show will be on YouTube, so you can choose to watch here or you can watch on YouTube later on. But I welcome you to the second hour of this show. And in this hour, you'll be able to call in if you want to call and then ask a question or make a comment, or you can put those comments and questions in the comment section of our social media handles, Facebook, and I will be able to read them at some point. And so I will be, these two ladies will be able to answer. So before I go so far, I want to ask my other guest who just came in to introduce herself, tell us what your name is, what do you do, and we can begin from there.
Okay, so, well, thank you very much. I'm Denise Ayebare. Currently, I'm working as the National Coordinator for the UN Volunteers, and I'm also a CEO of A Better Life. Very passionate about youth empowerment, climate action, and also teenage pregnancies, and also early marriages. So I advocate for all the SDGs that do exist. You can call me an SDG advocate. I think that's all.
You are CEO. So what is a better life? What is that about?
Well, A Better Life deals with youth empowerment in form of mentorship, about life skills, about, it goes ahead to talk about personal development, life skills, and also business skills. So that's what we majorly do in schools, universities, and also we go into primary schools to enhance the life skills and personal development of different individuals.
And I want to begin at the same note that I began with Esther. I want to ask, tomorrow is International Youth Day. What does that mean to you as an individual? And is it even worth celebrating anyway?
Well, as an individual, if you're to celebrate something, then that something must have achieved its worth to be celebrated. Tomorrow is International Youth Day, but then the questions come back to us. Are the youth worth celebrating the Youth Day? I feel we, as in the Global South in Uganda, we are not yet there to celebrate that day. We can celebrate it and be that, you know what, we have achieved this and this. But most of the things that the government has put in place to elevate the youth have not worked out. Like the Youth Livelihood Fund in 2018. Now we are looking at the parish development model, which does not necessarily actually cater for more of the youth. Those are some of the discussions we should be having. We are looking at most of the youth being unemployed and being in the subsistence sector. And what's there to celebrate? That's the question. So it goes back to us. Do we have the inclusion that we need as the youth? Why should we celebrate a day where we do not have the inclusion?
Is it a problem of us as young people, or is it a problem of society? Because I feel like, from what you say, it feels like the problem is more like passive, coming from the outside of the youth circle. So shouldn't we celebrate because we are not given the platform, because we are not given the inclusion that we need, or because we as young people are, I mean, what is there to celebrate anyway?
Well, I could say that largely, sometimes it's the youth's mindset. Where we are seeing things such as corruption being a means of life, we are being so permissive. You know, what we study in class just incapacitates us to just remain with what we have studied. We do not want to venture outside and go outside and give it our best. So to a larger extent, I feel it's the mindset that we need to change, that everything should be part of the government. So when we're given these platforms, they largely fail because of our mindset. For example, in 2018, when the government launched the Youth Livelihood Program, they said that, you know what, we are going to give you this amount of money, but start projects and make sure you pay it back in 50% per month. But what did the youth do? They corrupted that money, not like their corruption, but they would go ahead and make projects that do not exist.
They ate the money.
Exactly.
Simply put.
Yeah, so you tell someone, do you have like poetry, do you have like piggery or anything? And you find they do not have, but they're making like ghost projects in order to do that. So you find that, you see, it's the permissiveness, that they're okay with how things are, the mindset, how they have failed to change their mindset to be better, to better themselves. And they're actually thinking that maybe, you know what, corruption is a means of life, or it is a lifestyle we should live with. So generally, the government is trying its best to put all these platforms. But then that's why I'm saying the mindset of the youths and everything is what makes us fail the government, because it's us now failing the government. Now, at an extent that they bring about the parish development model, and it's the same circus that we are going through.
That used to have happened.
Yeah.
So that is, I'm going to go to Esther by her submission. It seems the problem, we like to, so a friend of mine calls it lamenting. We like to lament. Yes. We like to say the government has not done that for us, it has not done this, it has not done that. And by and large, sometimes it's also a problem of ourselves. So you find that even when we are fighting for inclusion, we ourselves are actually not ready for that. So I want to understand your perspective. Do you think the whole problem is because we are not given the inclusion we so rightfully deserve, because yes, we are members of society that it is, but or is it that we are just sitting behind and just lamenting about, and we are not ready for even what we are advocating for?
Okay, me, I think, contrary to what you said, I think at the end of the day, like I said, you can take the good to take water, but you can't force it to take the water. But if you wanted to take the water, you could put salt in the hay so that it's forced to take the water. So at the end of the day, it still goes back to, okay, government policies and all. I think our government has really tried as much as it can to help. Look at the new curriculum in Senior 1 and Senior 2. You remember before it was you study biology, chemistry, and the like, and Form 4 is what determines the rest of the years are very useless almost. Yeah. Now, the new curriculum provides for co-curricular. Yes, the government is trying. Yes, it has looked into the problem of getting out there, and youth are not entrepreneurial. Or they have a book. Hey, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to go to office. Everything is by the rules. Everything is by the rules. There's nothing about. So the new curriculum provides a broader view of how the world is perceived, because these students study on their own. They're supposed to read on their own. They're supposed to make research, and this gives them the skill of research work. Even by the time they come to university, they will be much more embracive to making their own research about different items. And ideally, at the end of the day, it makes somebody discover their potential. They'll realize, okay, when I'm reading about climate, I get passionate about it. So I go to read this, I go to the internet, and then I read about it, other than just reading the chemistry and the biology and the history that happened some time back, which may not be as productive by the time somebody finishes school. And then I think the government has really tried, like she said, the various projects that they have given the youth to participate in, but then are mishandled by the youth themselves.
But now the problem is, okay, that is true, that is for a fact true. But here is the issue. Does the government really first try to understand the issues of the young people? Because there's one thing, that I know, let's say Uganda is poor, let's say, and then you come up with a project that is, you think will work for the whole Uganda, one fits all kind of approach. And so you realize sometimes the government does not really look into the issues of young people to streamline some of these programs. And so obviously they are bound to fail. Or do you even have young people on board to make sure that the implementation is inclusive? So sometimes as the government, okay, yes, the government has tried, but does it really go an extra mile to look at what the young people want themselves? Or is it just a blanket of this is there for young people, so we are doing that, just to show that we are actually trying to do something?
Ideally, I think that the government is trying as much as it can. If that wasn't the case, then why would they put the youth parliament? If that wasn't the case, then why would they make laws for the young people? Yeah, even the constitution has laws that favor the young people. Yeah. At the end of the day, I think the government is really trying to include the youth in all its activities, political, social, and economic. So it goes back to, okay, what the policymakers actually think about what the youth are doing, which I think they actually do, because when you look, they are the MPs that are supposed to be in charge of the youth. Yes. So these people are supposed to ask. They're supposed to ask, engage the youth in the different activities that probably the communities could have. But then at the point, the youth are a little comfortable. Yes, they are a little comfortable with receiving. They're on the receiving end. Yeah, the government hasn't given us money. The government
because that's what the government has put there for us. It is giving us. So it does not include us in the whole process. So when we remain at the receiving end, we are going to definitely be comfortable. So isn't the government making a blunder of not including young people in the whole process, only to have them at the receiving end?
I think it is subjective, because also young people should be examined and questioned. I think the government is like a parent that is worried about this young child that is growing up. Yes, ideally a parent wouldn't let you handle his bank accounts, right? Wouldn't let you go to office for him, right? Yes, but would give you part of his salary to depend on, because they are scared or worried that if they entrusted you with this, yeah, you're going to probably mess it, or you don't know how to do it. Yes?
So how do I learn to do it?
Or you do not know how to do it. So I think the government is using a strategy that tries to pull the youth. They're trying to give us things, and now it's up to us to look at the opportunities that have been granted to us. That's why they say we all have 24 hours a day, but we all don't use the 24 hours the same way. There are some people who are ending the day with 10 million. There are some that are not making $1 a day. So how are you spending the day? The resources are the same. We all have the one world. We all have internet. But how are you spending the resources you have at hand? Yes. Are you misusing them? Are you comfortable? Are you certain, okay, this is enough, I could resolve it? Or are you a fighter and say, okay, this is the little I have, let me work with this and then make my life better, or make things out there much better than they are? Yes.
Okay. Denise, I want to get your perspective on that issue. Is it the government is doing, we seem to agree that the government is trying to do something, but is the issue that the government is just trying to do something, or is it really not paying attention to the needs of young people, and that way they are left behind? Or is it just a problem of young people who are just lamenting and not doing anything about it?
Well, one is that both sides are to blame. I can't say that the young people's mindset has also not been changed, or the government has done its best. We think that one, like the initiative that brought about in Senior One, I think they have realized that, you know what we are doing with our education sector is really terrible. Because you can't go in school for all these years, study, come out, and you know what, you think that life is going to be straight. They need to enhance skills, and that only exists in vocational. You get? So we as the youth, there is mismatch of policies from what the government is doing. Yeah, there is no going to the ground. And you know what? saying that we think that people in northern Uganda are facing this. We think that the people in western Uganda are facing this. But when they go and reach like a point of making policies, they bring about policies that actually, if they favored someone in northern Uganda, they cannot favor someone in eastern Uganda. So there is that mismatch of policies where the government does not first go to ground and identify the problem. There is no identification of the problem that does exist in different regions. And that is one thing we need to concede to. Because you're going to find better education structures, like for example in regions like Central Region, but yet in those local areas and other areas, that same education system does not necessarily exist. So when you go ahead, you find that there is a gap existing between youths that come from different regions. And there is no way you're going to bridge that gap as the government when you say that, you know what, we are going to bring about the youth livelihood program. It's only going to benefit those people who know about it. We need to agree that there are some people who don't even know that the parish development model exists. So we need the government to go down, identify the problem that does exist with different youths in those different paradigms, and after they have identified the problem, come back and get the right solution for those people. Not necessarily going and saying, we think that the youth all over the country are unemployed. So what do we think? We're going to bring about the parish development model. But how many people know of it right now? Not even 70% of the youths actually know that the PDM does exist. You go ahead and you say, we're going to roll out funds that are existing. Only people who have access to the local governments that exist in those constituencies and everything are the only people that are going to benefit. So you find that year after year, the beneficiaries of those programs are the same, and not necessarily like the betterment of the people who are on the grassroots. So I think the problem is the government does not first identify what does exist with these youths, and secondly, the systems that they bring, all those things are only benefiting the given people that exist that know about it. I want to disagree with Esther somewhere where she said that everyone can access internet. We think that that is not true. Most of the people in those local areas actually do not even know that internet does exist. That is one thing we need to concede to. So now when you talk about those problems and everything, what is the government trying to do? Has it first identified the problem? Has it gone ahead to say that this policy is going to benefit this given of people, or it's going to benefit people living with disabilities? Thirdly, and if that is going to do it, have they benchmarked from other countries or from other projects, former projects? Because parish development model is the same like youth livelihood program, just that it has been increased to older people, let me say. It's just the same. So if other programs have failed, then why bring the same program, just that you're including old people?
So generally, I want to understand, and not just for Uganda particularly as one, when you look at the world as it stands generally, would you say the young people have really been given the space they deserve, especially given their constituency and them being, I think, the majority generally cross-cutting? Would you say the young people have been given the space they so deserve as a part of that global constituency? I'll begin with you.
I think young people have been given the space. Yes, I think they have. That's why she is volunteer UN. Yes, I think they have been given the space. Yes, but then at the end of the day, it goes back to awareness. And I'll quote a Bible verse if you don't mind.
It's okay.
The Bible says that my children will perish because of lack of knowledge. Yes. So this awareness thing is the question at hand. Yes. People do not even know that tomorrow is National Youth Day. Some people don't even care about it anyway. Whether it is or it is not. They don't even care, yes. But then me, I think as a developing country, as Uganda, even as speaking for Africa, I think the governments have tried to include youth in part of decision making and policies. I think that's a 1+1 for governments that are developing. And ideally, you cannot just come up one day and say, okay, the youth in this region are going to do this region are going to do this. I think the government is taking baby steps, I could say, because it's one thing for you to deploy very many people in the different areas in every village, yes, to find out what the youth want, this is what they want. So the approach they use that, okay, the youth they get a status quo and an average, yes, because you can't reach each and every one in the world. You can't. That's almost next to impossible. So they get a status quo and average that, okay, you know what, the youth in Uganda are facing a problem of this, and then let's see, can this one solve a problem? Can we rationalize and say, okay, when we give them platform to probably stand for the different posts, is it going to solve a problem? Now, if that fails, can we try something else, and will it give the youth? Now, it still goes back to us. Are we willing to embrace these positions? How are we using these positions? Are we just getting into those positions and saying, okay, I am this, I am that, but then are we impacting in other people? Are we letting them know about these things? Yes. Are we going to our universities and actually making our fellow students aware that, you know, you people, there are opportunities here, 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 or do we keep them to ourselves and only tell our friends about them? Yes, and that's now the problem that comes back to us as people, as individuals, as the youth, how we have acted or proacted to what has been given unto us. Because at the end of the day, you work with what you have. Yes, you work with what you have. What you have, yes, could be little, but how are you utilizing it? Yes, because I'll tell you, I'd give you an opportunity to do something, and I would give another person to do something. But then how you do it will may be different from how the other person the other person handles it. Yes, I could give you that story, prodigal story of Jesus of servants that were given money, and the other one gave back the money that the master gave him. The other one multiplied the money, and then the other one kept it in the ground. So the way they handled it is different, but they had the same resource because they left them with the same amount of money. So how are we using these opportunities to better the other youth who cannot see, who are not heard, who don't have internet in the village? How are we using these opportunities to help them out?
And that is exactly why the alternative Digitalk is here. It's entirely majorly for young people, and to make sure that we are bridging the gap of representation. Because when you look even at the media as a whole, the mainstream is reserved kind of to a particular
class of people.
And so you realize that now the most constituency of Uganda is left behind. And so that is why we are here, trying to also make a small difference as much as we can. Now I want us to talk a little bit about you both are climate activists. I want to look at one thing in particular. I want to first look at Uganda as a country, and then we can go to the global as a whole. We see climate, we have had recently a climate change act, bill passed into act, I think, about last year or so. And we have had even some court judgments, we have some rules that make it, that are really putting the environment safety at hand. We had the ban of Kavera, I think, way back in 2014 or 15, thereabout, yes. But that has not come to fruition. We see a problem of plastics. We all talk about it. Even the people in government will say we have a problem of plastic pollution, but the government continues to license companies like Century Bottling Company that produces a ton of plastics here and there. And so we want to look at climate. Are we really giving it that much attention? Especially now that it's majorly spearheaded by young people trying to make the awareness. Is the government really listening to some of these things? And if it does it actually implement? Because there's listening, we say, okay, that's a problem, but we don't put it in practice.
Okay, I'm going to first say, we all need development as Uganda.
Yes,
we need the country to go forward. But what means are we using for the country to go forward? When you look at still, Uganda as a country, it doesn't even contribute more than 0.1% to the global emissions.
Yes.
But then now I think the problem comes where we have also policies that are not favoring developing countries. Let's just talk in that line because I believe Uganda is a developing country.
Yes.
Well, so now when you come and tell a country like Uganda that we need urgent action, meaning that you're going to go to the villages and tell people stop cutting down trees, stop using charcoal, but then what is the alternative? You see? The government of Uganda, when it says that we are going to ban Kavera, what is the alternative? Have they brought in paper bags? When they go down and say that we should stop using oil and we should stop using that, have they brought about sustainable means of how we can extract these resources? So now the question goes back to the government. Because you can't go to the village and tell someone who is depending their entire life on cutting down trees, and you tell them, stop cutting down trees. They will ask you, how shall I take my children to school? How shall I do this? We are having all these policies in place, but then has the government given its citizens an alternative? You're going to have these policies, we're banning Kavera, we have the polluter pays principle, where like Total Energies is supposed to pay or is supposed to do some environmental work. But then what are you telling the people to do themselves? Are you going down to know the problems they are facing as concerning that? So when you make these policies without an alternative, they are bound to fail. Because you need an alternative to give to the people, whether it's going to be renewable resources, where you're going to have windmills, you're going to have solar panels and all that. But when you do not have all that, then all these policies that you bring in place are going to fail. Because the people are so poor, there is poverty, we need to agree with that. But then there is no way you're going to tell them to stop cutting down whatever they are depending on for their livelihood. But then also another second thing is that we need to agree we need development. We need to agree that the global north countries like Britain, countries like all those countries have developed rather from atrocities like colonialism and slavery. And then when they bring policies that are going to favor them and not us, they're going to say that, you know what, stop like cobalt, stop using cobalt. They're the same countries that are going to come back to Africa, extract the cobalt and use it for electrical cars. So why shouldn't we use it in a more sustainable means? So I feel like we as East Africa as a whole, we need like a joint bargaining hand or position at these international conferences. Because when you look at this like COP27, Conference of All Parties that is going to take place in Egypt, you find that countries like Uganda do not have negotiators. So what is our stand at the global conferences? Yes. So do we want to go on and know how to extract these minerals in more sustainable and more environmental means that are friendly? Or is it that you're going to agree with everything, cut down the coal, cut down the oil and all that? Yet countries in the global north know how to extract these minerals without necessarily harming the environment.
So we're at crossroads between development and the climate future.
Exactly.
So now that the problem now comes to, because at the end of the day, the reason I'm putting it up, especially in a youth discussion, is because at the end of the day, the effects are a future. They're long term. They are long term, yes, thank you. So they project into our future, into the people who are coming after us.
Next generations.
The next generations generally. So we are stuck between we need to grow and we need a better environment. So which one do we decide? I have a friend who is a climate activist, Hilda. She's now an activist against the whole ECOP, that thing for oil in Hoima. Yeah, that whole pipeline stuff. But at the end of the day, even I understand she has a good point. But also as a country, we need to grow as one. So what should we put at the forefront? We want to grow, and we also want an environment friendly, a future. So what do you think is better?
I think it's the crossroads of we want to grow and we want a better future. Go log ahead. And I think that we have become very comfortable as Ugandans, not because Ugandans, we are very comfortable. Things concerning climate change are at the back of our minds. They're not priority. You cannot go tell a man who's dealing with probably in the village there that, hey, you know what, you should not cut trees down and so this. That one is a given to him. Rain is a given, sun is a given. It's a given from God. As far as they're concerned, it's a given from God. So they don't really care about probably the climate change or anything like that. But then at the end of the day, I still think that the government policies in Uganda, yes, the policy is there, but the implementation is a problem. I tell you, go to Rwanda, and when you reach the border, they check for every kind of kavera you have, even if you put it to tie your smearing oil. They remove it from your baggage because they do not want you to enter their country with polythene, with kaveras. Even Kenya at the border, we faced it when we went, that they removed every form of kavera when we entered. But when we're coming back, we entered with everything. We entered with everything back into the country. So I think the policies are there. The Climate Change Act is there. The Climate Act is there. The Environmental Act is there. But then the policy, that the people who are in charge of implementing these policies are the ones that are not actually doing their roles. Yes, you could see the government is trying to mitigate it. They have employed, they have put KCCA there to clean, remove the cameras in the streets and all that stuff. Yes, they have tried, but then the people that are signing,
it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. Yes, the laws exist, but then the people implementing them don't at all, don't implement them. Yes. But at the end of the day, I believe that Uganda should develop, but then like Denise said, we have to look at the alternative that you have for people. Yes, you're telling us, okay, don't use cameras. Yes, are there companies? Are you supporting companies? Because when you want to encourage a development, yes, like let me say, probably a university was giving, we could say, if they are giving buns for breakfast to students, you could say, yes, and then you no longer want to give them buns, and you're saying, okay, let's give an alternative. Other than giving you buns that you're complaining about every day, let's give you what? Cakes. But then the cakes are expensive. More than the what? More than the buns, yes. But then the government should support these other companies that are trying to help to save the environment, like the polythene, the paper bags that can decompose and decay. They should invest in such companies such that they outweigh this, because you tell me when you go to a supermarket, a paper bag is 1,000, camera is 100. I would opt for the 100 and save my 900 that I'm going to use for a later set. If the government would come and support these companies that are actually dealing with degradable, yes, those paper bags, it would be much better, and it would be an easier policy to move up with, other than telling us, oh, camera is bad, bottles are bad, this, that. They would do that alternative to help mitigate the problem of littering the place. Yes.
Now, as in the climate space as a whole, we see how it has happened across the world. I want to understand, what can young people really contribute to make a change in that perspective, that it becomes an issue. We don't just speak, climate change is a problem. We have people who think climate change is a hoax. So how do we make a change, effect an actual change, other than just speaking as young people, as a big constituency in this world?
I think young people should get more involved in issues concerning climate change. Yes, you'd find somebody, climate is the least of their worries in school. Yes, it's the least of their worries. But how do you actually mitigate that? Yes, how do we enable young people to actually make it as a priority? Yes, by raising awareness. Yes, you realize that human rights is all over the place, because people know, I have a right to this, I have a right to life, because we have shouted and shouted about, and it has become a song. Yes, so if we could also shout climate change, then probably it would trigger in our minds that it's also an issue, because ideally at the end of the day it all goes back to somebody's mindset, how somebody thinks about climate. Yes, right now we have managed to trigger the mind, human rights is good, I have a right to education, I have a right to this, but the climate they do not know. That's why you find that some institutions, university institutions, have established that plant trees. Yes, the projects that university students are coming up with, that okay, let's plant trees in our university, because at the end of the day we need these trees, we need the shade, we need the fresh air, we need this. Now if we could do awareness to the young people, still goes back to the government, let them include us, yes, in policies in regards to planting trees, in regards to saving our environment. Then we'll also have a say, or we would give our opinions about how they could actually mitigate these problems, because we are the ones that go to the universities, we are the ones that go to the different schools. So if we have this at the back of our minds, if we are seeing our leader, like we could say, then at the parliament, at the youth parliament, we said, okay, this year our issue is climate changes. What are we going to do? In the different universities, we want every university to plant these and these trees. We send out people there. We give the government a budget. They support us in this. I'm telling you, there's going to be a difference. Other than us saying, okay, there is a problem with climate change, or let's plant trees, and there is nothing. There's not really going to be productivity out of that.
Okay. That is very true. Now we are in the second hour. Viewers, you can call in live if you have a question, you can put it across. You can call and have the question or have the comment put across. We would really appreciate that. But also, if you cannot call, you can put your comment or question on our social media handles. I'll be able to read it. So the numbers I want to read, they're also on your lines. MTN is 0789 017 145 and Airtel is 0759 132 310. So you can call in, have a question put across. These two ladies will be able to answer them. Now I want to go to the common problem that young people across the world are facing, the problem of ageism. The problem of ageism. We have, you will go to a place, and I believe this has happened to a lot of us, if not all of us. In one way, even if you go to employment, you'll go, they will tell you, but you're so young. We have a friend, I believe you both know him because you had him at the Youth Parliament, Roy Ogumayo. That gentleman is standing for MP East African Community. And so we want to understand, most of the times I was talking to him, he was telling me, most of the times I will tell him, but you are young. And so that is a problem that has happened. Even in school, when I was going to P7, I was very short and small. And so
you had to do this.
Yeah. And so my father, for some reason, was like, but you're too young to be in secondary. Can you repeat P7? I was like, no, of course I'm not going to repeat. Good thing was a little bit liberal, so he understood. But that is a problem that happens. You go to employment, and they will tell you you're too young to do this, or you don't have this skill and that skill. And so we have that general problem of ageism. How do we fight that if we want inclusion, if we want a better world for all of us? As leveraging on the theme that is there this year, we are intergenerational solidarity. Yeah, making the world work for all ages. That only comes with leaving no one behind. So how do we achieve that? I want to begin with you, Denise.
Well, so now we need to agree that majority of the problems that exist across the world affect the youth, the young people. And we need to agree that it's the young people with the solutions and who know what best works for them. So at the point in time that we are going to have the older generation act as a bridge or act as a, let me say, like a barrier towards this, then that's a point in time that we're never going to solve these problems. Like you say, majority of the times, like you go out, people are going to say, but you're a young person, what do you know? Like, I mean, we need to change that mindset. We are in a world that has progressed in the 21st century, where information is everywhere, where we have young people actually venturing in more of the things than the past generation. We have our older generation, let me say, or the two generations that are ahead of us, have this problem of saying they were exposed at a later age. But we are having kids as 12 years being exposed to the world. They have internet, they know what is happening all over the world. Now that is one thing we need to benchmark on, that our generation is better than the generations that existed in terms of exposure, in terms of what we have learned, and in terms of what we know about. So if we are not having that inclusion just based on age or discrimination based on age, saying that you're a young person, we think that what you should look at are the ideas that these young people carry. At a point in time that you're going to disregard the ideas, then that is where we're going to have a failing world. We think we ought to have the elders and the older people come in to give advice and all that. But when you talk about things, controversial things such as climate change, we need to agree that we as the young generation are the first to experience such detrimental things. The floods in Bali, the starvation in Karamoja, the bushfires that are happening across the world, the tsunamis and everything. We are the first generation to experience this, and we are the last who can do something about it. Because years to come, we are going to face a dead end, where none of this is irreversible, and we can't take action. So what does that mean? It's the youth that are supposed to be at the center of fighting unemployment, poverty, climate change, gender-based discrimination, and all that. So at a point in time that we include them and stop looking at the age and all that, but the ideas that they carry, and at a point in time that they're the ones being affected the most because, well, across the world we are the largest population. So we need to overlook that and look at the ideas, benchmark on what they have, and go ahead and include them in these policies. That's when you have an impact. But when you do not include them, there is zero impact. We are shouting inclusivity, inclusivity. In Uganda, we have every constituency having a youth member or a youth MP. But what is their impact on the political parties? What is their impact? When you reach those spaces, they are also discriminated on basis of age, that they are young. And that is the problem. They cannot have any impact when people are not looking at their ideas. Yeah. So I think one thing is that we need to overlook this and look at the bigger picture of who is being affected the most and who knows best what the solution is and who best can bring about the impact that we need in society.
Yeah, thank you so much. I will just pose the same question. you were smiling as she was deliberating. I want to understand. What do you think we can do I want your opinion on what we can do to counter the problem of ageism, to appreciate the energy of young people and their contribution?
I think it's still, I'll use the education realm. I'll walk that in, I'll take that path. I think it still goes back to government policies and how they train us right from the grassroots, yeah? Because it's easier to tell a 9-year-old, this pen is blue, I don't trade, than to tell you that this pen is blue, I don't trade. You would not believe this, but a 9-year-old would believe it because they're just learning, yes? And these are the things they cherish up to when they grow up, because when somebody becomes an adult, their minds are made about certain things, yes? Compared to when they're little, they can easily be, I don't want to say corrupted, but they can easily change their minds about opinions. So for me, it still goes back to government policies and how education systems are made, yes? Now, you look at our education system, we are now in the university, me and Denise. Now, our education system teaches us that, okay, you go to school, you study, yes, make sure you study a full-time student, yeah? You read the chemistry, read the history, yes?
Education is the key.
Education is the key to success.
Is it still the key?
You reach A level, and that is the same thing. You're reading and reading and reading and pumping your head. Yes, you get out to campus, you're doing a course, and you're still reading. Yes, like you're reading. It doesn't expose you to anything. By the time you finish the 3 years, you have no job experience. Yes, you have not worked anywhere. You don't know anyone. The least you know is probably the people at your campus. Yes, you don't know anyone, you don't know how to work, you don't even know how to handle money, you have no accountability, yes? This is a graduate, yes, from the university. Now, if you go out there, other countries, what they have tried to deploy is when somebody finishes, when they finish the colleges, yes, somebody already is triggered to work, yes, because it's included in the system. I'll tell you, I was applying for a university, Westminster in the UK. And the qualifications were, they ask you, where are you going to work? Yes? It's a must, it's compulsory that as you study, you work. Because what you work, actually, at the end of the day, you realize that what you have outside school is different from what is in school. Yeah. Yes? Yes? Now, where are you studying? And then after that, you don't even have a job. Yes, we've seen very many people graduate and they don't have jobs. Yes. Now, if we have this mindset that as I can study, I could use an example of law school. As I can study law school in my year 1, let me probably get, if you see, the problem is, even as I study in the university, the timetable is from 8 to 6. Yes? So there's no time that I have made to probably work or anything. Yes. If the university could say, the studying time is from 8 to midday, yes? After midday, you should go to your areas of work, yes? Learn how the workspace develops, operates, how accountability works, how you can create your own jobs, because you can only learn through doing it, yes? And when I finish working here, I'll know, okay, this is how accounts are handled, this is how I should do this is how I should do that. By the time I get out of the university, my mind is open, yes? And I have found my niche, because we suffer a lot as university students. Because you study, I'll take the law, you study the law, you'd study year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. But at the end of the day, you don't even practice the law. You change and want to do business. Yes. Yes, you change your mind about it. Because you haven't been exposed enough to what the law has to offer, or even which law you want to do. Yes, you don't discover your niche. Yes, because as young people, we try each and every area so that we find something, because we can only do that through being a jack of trades. You can't know, I'm good at climate change activism if you don't try it. You can't say, I'm good at this if you don't try it. So you try the various options that you have, yeah? You say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and then see which one has my strength. Which one am I more passionate about it? So by the time I am done with school, I know this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do with my life. Yes. So I think it still goes back to, are the government policies facilitating the knowledge, the need for knowledge, the new knowledge. Because we're now tired of the old school study. Yeah, those were for our parents, because our parents succeeded after studying, yes? But now as everyone is educated.
Then people have become billionaires without necessarily going to school.
Exactly. Exactly. So let them provide for us a platform, yes? How are the government policies being made, yes? Do they give us room to work? Yes, so that by the time I'm done with school, you would see with Denise, yes, she's this, she's that, yes. So by the time somebody is done with school, they have somewhere to stand, they have where to run to, yes. They say, this is what I've been doing while I was at campus, yes. I have gone and gotten this degree, yes. I highly qualify for this job because I have even done it before. I have work experience. What more do you want?
So then it is, so generally put, your submission is in the direction of it's not a problem of age.
It's not a problem of
It's
age.
a problem of an education system.
Yes. That changes and corrupts our minds. It corrupts our minds.
Okay, I want to believe that. I also want to see, because when you say it is an education system, which is a fact, especially in Uganda particularly, but even across the world, you realize most of the things, even in representation, even in political participation, they will tell you, this person is so young. When you look at statistics of young people, I think the youngest I have seen was, there's some lady, I think, from Scotland who was a member of parliament, the British Parliament. She was at 20. Yeah, that young lady. And Uganda, we actually had a 19-year-old become an MP in 2012. So, but the statistics are meager, you know. They are, you just look around for them. So generally, even for a problem of system, I agree with that. But has the whole structure appreciated the role of young people? No. As a young people, especially as the majority? Would you say they have appreciated?
Me, I think it still goes back to how people think. How an old person, I would say a child and a father, yes? The father has seen the son before his child. So he thinks his child doesn't know anything.
Yes.
Yes.
Somehow a child is a child.
He doesn't know anything. Yes. He finds it hard for you to correct him, because he says, you were just born yesterday. I saw you being encouraged. I saw you being encouraged. You're just born. So me, I think the old people's mindset should change. Yes. They should embrace the fact that the coming generation has new knowledge. Yes? We're no longer going old school, going to school in trains, walking to school. Walking to
Nowadays
school.
You go to school in a bed.
Yes.
You can study without necessarily going to school.
Exactly. I feel like the old people should embrace young people for new knowledge. Because what they have been doing in the past worked for them. Yes? Let the generations coming also impact and have the things that their generations are also creating. Now, if they do that for us, our generation is dead.
Okay.
Yes. So me, I think it goes to the mindset of old people. Yes. That should be put in their minds that, you know what, young people also have something to offer. Yes. The internet came in our times. Yes. That's why you find very many old people have problems. They will employ ICT managers because they have problem with the internet. They don't know how to operate the Wi-Fi and all these things. Yes. Because this is new knowledge they are not acquainted with. Yes. So me, I think it goes back to mindset.
Okay.
Yes.
Denise, I want to understand you are an SDG advocate. So that is literally cross-cutting. And when you look at SDGs generally, young people are mostly at the center of most of them. Or at least the issues that are trying to be solved by the SDGs are mostly affecting the young people. Now, how do you think we can tackle that problem of the age gap being used as a barrier from young people being practitioners, contributing to the solutions that are changing this world? How do you think we can do that?
Well, when you look at every policy or every ministry that does exist in Uganda, at a point in time, they do not have, let's say, youth platforms. They do not go down, or there is no capacity building. Let me say, if the older age knows that this is what should be done, have they gone down to enhance the youth? So what I would suggest is that every ministry in Uganda should maybe have a working group for only the youth. because they're the ones going to contribute to the change that they want. So when you have that working group, let me say like when you're activist for SDG 13, what is climate action, you have a youth advocate group or working group that is specifically going to look at these problems, go ahead and do research in areas of like Mbale, the most affected areas, northern Uganda, and they go ahead and bring the policies that are going to benefit them. You realize that bringing about inclusivity of, let me say, children and young people is investing in them is what is going to solve most of these problems. Because if they are being the most affected people and you invest in them and you give them the capacity to solve these problems, you give them that inclusivity, then you know you're going to do away with these problems. But a point in time that you decide to ignore them, that's why I made a point that we are the majority. We know what affects us the most, and we have the solution to what affects us. But when you put us on the sidelines, you're going to bring policies that necessarily do not solve our own problems.
Yes.
So when that all happens, then the problems are going to continuously exist. That's why you're going to have policy alignment and implementation failing in majority of these SDGs. No poverty, you're supposed to have quality education, you're supposed to have strengthened institutions, but strengthened institutions without the youth, without the inclusion of the youth. I mean, what's that? So at a point in time that all these SDGs, the 16 of them are all going to fail because you do not have that inclusion and that capacity building until the grassroots. And besides that, you're having mismatch of policies. Because the policy you bring in place is not the policy that is going to solve the problem that does exist without necessarily benchmarking from what that particular group of people is facing. So my advice would be that every ministry or every government entity that's trying to work on some problem or on advocating for an SDG should have a working group specifically made up of the youth. And what do? They bring about policies. And the people are welcoming these policies. The young people shall welcome these policies. Why? Because it has been made by the youth. You get? So implementation and alignment becomes easier to follow these policies rather than when they come from the government. You know, like when they make all these policies, they say they are old. What do they know? What is affecting us? You get? But a point in time that you have these working groups and you put it in documentation that maybe the youth, this working group has contributed to this, the policies that are putting in place, they shall be more welcoming because it triggers the mindset to welcome something that you relate to rather than something that is far-fetched.
Yes.
So the policy alignment and implementation becomes easier in that really.
Okay.
And I think I'd like to add to what she's saying about youth alignment, also increment of youth representation. I'll tell you, in the university board, only one member of the guild body sits on that board. Now, when something comes to a vote, what does one hand have?
The quorum. So quorum is literally
quorum is not there. What does one hand have?
That's
over 6 people? You lose out.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so we are literally coming to the close of our show today. Most of the comments are really kind of just appreciating. Thank you for the show. One is asking if climate change is a hoax. I guess that is you try to address. But as we conclude, I want to get the takeaways for each of you to tell us, and I want you to look in the camera specifically and tell that world, tell them what do we need as young people to make sure that the world works better for all ages, especially young people. I'll begin with you as you conclude.
As I conclude, first, the old people's mindset should change about youth inclusivity. They should also appreciate the fact that there is new knowledge out there for the youth, and that is what they're bringing for their generation because their generation is past. 2, I would also advocate for more inclusivity of youth representatives in these spaces because what is a one hand against 6 hands in a board meeting? And also for purposes of the government should also enact the policies that they create because the law is there, the policies are there, but then the people implementing these policies, if an eye would be given to them, then the world would be a better place. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That is Esther, all for you. Thank you so much for making the time. Denise, you have the same time to say your parting shots and tell that world what young people should have.
My takeaways are going to be only 3. The first one is we should stop having this elite talk and take it down to the grassroots. Because if we have only these talks happening among the elite groups, then we're not going to have any change in the grassroots. So if the government is saying we are bringing in place something, let it go down and let the people be aware of it. We need more awareness. And two, we are the change that we need. As young people, the problems that we are facing, we are the ones to solve these problems. Let's have a joint effort as young people and get to solve these problems. The government is not going to come looking for us that, you know what, this is what is happening. Let's go to those offices, demand for what is existing. For example, I would say like the Ministry of Gender and all that, they have money designated for the youth who are working in problems such as gender, who are working in problems such as poverty. But when we do not have these working groups and go there to say that we need this amount of money to solve this, then there is no way that they would know that we need this. And thirdly, let's change our mindsets to stop this permissiveness and look more into the world. It doesn't stop on the education that we get. It goes down to what we want to learn. And learning means that you have to unlearn and relearn and continue to learn. So that means that the change we desire is the change we bring about. It starts with you and it goes ahead to all the rest of the world. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. That is Denise, Ayebare. Thank you two ladies for making the time, for speaking to the young people out there and even to the old generation. Sometimes a friend of mine likes to say that sometimes people need to be spoken sense into, so I understand. I want to thank you two for making the time to speak sense into the older generation as well. I have a problem with ageism. I feel like young people have been sidelined for the most part, and they're the biggest constituents in this world. So as an individual, particularly, I think that the world should give a space to the young people. Even when you doubt them, let's see what they can do. At least that way, the blame will shift from you. We'll say, we gave you the space, but you misused it or did this and that. So I guess that should be the issue. We are trying to create a world that works for all of us. We are trying to leave no one behind. So let's try to act it. Let's not have it in paper and just speak about it in boardrooms. Let's put it out there. Let's make policies that are all inclusive. Let's make a government that is inclusive, that you have representation that at least 50% should be a particular age of young people. And so when we look at all this, when we make it all inclusive, it becomes easy for the world to balance. Maybe the new perspective is all that we need. And so let's try to act that way now. My name has been Roger Sturiawe, and I thank you all for being with us this day. I want to thank you, our panelists today. And for the people, our viewers, you are the reason why we are here, and we are trying to make the world a better place. We are putting our small blocks, so can you please put yours? We will make the world a better place. Thank you for watching. We will meet again tomorrow morning. The gentleman, Arnold Anthony Mukosi and Farida Bikomere will be here with Omorangira Achieving a Mbogwe. In the evening of tomorrow, we'll also have the Voltage show here with Mumbeja Lily and Owede. She'll be hosting a panel of gentlemen who will be talking about issues of national importance, mostly political. Saturday, the ladies will be here with Snap Talk. They'll be telling you all about society and relationships and stuff like that. And then our program begins just the same the following week. And on Sundays, very soon, the Edisolium will be returning with Lily and bringing you those people who have made it in life, we like to say. And so those will be giving us perspective. So we have come to the close of this show. Have yourselves a very good morning.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.